Where am I staying? I'm actually up in Birmingham
Oh, really?
because I have to give another talk at 7:30 in the morning, right near there. So I figured I would stay there.
Thanks for making the trip. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
And then I'm flying out to California for the weekend.
Where in California?
Southern California,
Where?
Orange County.
Oh. Doesn't matter. Where in Orange County?
Oh yeah, from where?
Newport Beach.
Oh,
I'm from San Diego.
my mom lives in Laguna Niguel,
Oh, wow. That's so close.
and I have a brother in Laguna Beach, so I'll see them all.
Sweet.
All right, show on the road, Rick.
Okay, so thank you for coming. I have nothing planned, so I'm just going to talk. But you guys are interested in Will Work for Food, and I'm interested in having healthy and well-nourished patients, and so our interests greatly coincide. And I want to thank you for what you're doing. So this is my clinic in Gondar in northwest Ethiopia. So it's a very simple place. It's a room. It's a building with a bunch of rooms and not much there. And this is my clinic at Mother Teresa's Mission, where we have lots of people. In fact, I was bringing in so many patients that the nuns banned me from bringing in outside patients because it was making their lives crazy. And the nuns think of their role as taking care of the poorest of the poor. And some of my patients are not poor people by Ethiopian standards. And so the nuns didn't want them at Mother Teresa's Mission. I personally thought it was quite cool that these rich people had to come into Mother Teresa's Mission to get treated. The nuns didn't feel that way, so they're the ones who make the rules. But anyway, I work in, if you're staying for the next talk, you'll hear about this more, but I work in 3 areas, in heart disease, and spine disease, and cancer. So the spine program I started in 2006. And 2006, I got 20 new spines. So far this year, I have 330 new spines. So we have a lot of patients, and you can see a lot of people are just coming in. So, plumpy nut. So, you guys, I don't know how much you know about this, but
They're the experts.
Somebody invented, Nutriset, this company, invented and patented in a quite controversial way, plumpy nut. So, have you ever tasted it?
Yeah.
One, it's, if you like, I don't personally like peanut butter, but if you like peanut butter, then it can be quite okay. Ethiopians like this stuff. And one packet is 500 calories, and it's really revolutionized the way we do feeding in Africa. Because we don't have to, we used to have a whole feeding program. I'm the doctor for all the Ethiopian immigrants to Israel. And we would have, at any one time, first of all, how do you define malnutrition? And I don't want to go into the details unless somebody really wants to hear this stuff, but you can come up, whatever your definition is, 2 standard deviations, 3 standard deviations, old growth charts, new growth charts, these are the issues. And what are you going to use? You're going to use weight for age, weight per length, there's different things. But whatever standard you choose, at some point, some people are going to be defined as malnourished. The other thing that's possible is just going by arm circumference. Your arm circumference basically stays the same from 6 months to 5 years, and so you can measure arm circumference and come up with a way of assessing malnutrition that way if it's less than, say, 12 centimeters. So you come up with an idea of what malnutrition is, and it used to be that we would have this whole kitchen department, and they would cook, and we would serve the patients a couple times a day. All that's changed with plumpy nut, and now you just give them one packet of plumpy nut. So plumpy nut is available inside Ethiopia. We buy it from the factory, which makes it in Ethiopia, and it's actually made for export. And we have to pay for it, not in Ethiopian birr, but in the foreign currency. For us, all of our money comes and we bring in dollars and we change it legally. So for us to pay in foreign currency is not an issue at all. But that's how it has to be done. One packet, any idea how much it costs? 43 cents. So 43 cents a packet. And if you just give this to the kid once or twice a day, you do quite well. Pregnant women. So You probably don't have anyone here who's been pregnant, but how much weight do you want a pregnant woman to gain in the United States? Minimum. So minimum would be 10 kilograms, which is 22 pounds, okay? Okay, so maybe she's pregnant. So minimum, yes, that's the minimum healthy weight gain. So how do you figure out how much weight a woman is gaining? So in America, the woman misses her menstruation, and she runs to the doctor, she runs to the drugstore, tests herself, and goes to the doctor and says, I think I'm pregnant, right? And then the doctor will go ahead and test the patient. So in Ethiopia, that's not what happens. And in Ethiopian culture, women may know that they're pregnant, but they don't go to the doctor till the very end. Clearly, that's not in the woman's best interest, because what if the baby's in a bad position? What if she's malnourished? And what are some of the nutritional issues of pregnancy? So you want a pregnant woman to gain enough weight. There's something called neonatal, which is infantile, hypothyroidism. So when the thyroid level is too low, the baby can be born mentally retarded, and the medical term for that is cretin. Okay, so that's called cretinism, and cretinism is largely prevented if you can give iodine within the second trimester of birth. So one of the things that I do is I import iodine from France. There's a company there that I found, and you just give one capsule during pregnancy, and it will decrease the rate of cretinism significantly. Then you give one dose to the kid when the kid is born, and that will be enough to last for years. And it's really important, because when you give iodine in the first 6 weeks of life, you decrease the death rate, the mortality in the first year of life. That's number one. Number two is you raise the IQ by 7%. So it's like a magic bullet. And that ends up costing me about 33 cents each. Okay, so that's one of the things we want to do in pregnancy. But so first of all, you have to change the behavior of Ethiopians, because you need them to go to the doctor soon. Otherwise, if you come in at 7 months, how much weight have you gained? I have no idea. There's no way of knowing, right? And you see the belly out there, but that's not a big help. So you need to have the patients come in early. So you need to change their mindset to get them to come in and be able to weigh them and then follow them. So one of the things we do is we had evidence that women were not gaining enough weight. So we give every pregnant woman 1 packet of Plumpy Nut a day while she's pregnant. So that's 500 calories a day. And that seems to, it's not so easy to do the math and to do the study, but it seems to help a lot. This is some of the Plumpy Nut we're giving out. So some of this is to pregnant women, and some of this is to malnourished kids. Yes?
Is it really about the calories, or is it also about the nutrients that are in Plumpy Nut? What's like the major?
Well, you gain weight because of the calories, but it's not just rice. It's not just carbohydrates. It's protein, and it's milk, and it's vitamins as well that they add to the stuff. So it's a combination. It's all of the above. So you can see we give out lots of Plumpy Nut. Now, right now, so this is a program that we were doing before, and we no longer have the clinic. So for that reason, we're not using Plumpy Nut. However, we are using Plumpy Nut in Ghana. Plumpy Nut is not available in Ghana, so we actually send the Plumpy Nut with our patients when they go to Ghana for spine surgery. And we ship over, Dr. Boachi, my surgical partner, will email me, and we'll ship over 300, 400 packets of Plumpy Nut with the group. And then they'll give this out either to the kids who they want to gain more weight, or they'll give it out to kids after surgery. When you really, you've had surgery, you really don't feel like eating anything. If you can get them to eat 1 packet of Plumpy Nut or 2 packets of Plumpy Nut, that's fantastic, and that's 1,000 calories. So if you can do that for 4 or 5 days when the kids are not feeling good, just sort of coax them into eating that, then you can help the kids a lot during that period of time. Dr. Boachi loves it when patients are a bit overweight, because then when they have this period of time when they don't feel like eating, they do very well. Most of our patients are not relatively overweight, they're relatively underweight. and so when they don't eat, they become even more underweight. So you can see plumpy nut has lots of uses for us. And I don't know who that guy is, but we have lots of plumpy nut. So all this stuff is coming from the Ethiopian plumpy nut factory, which I've never visited. Did you ever go there, Steve?
Yeah, it's just outside of town.
Yeah, it's called Helena Foods. And there's some lady in New York, I forget her name, but she's the one who funded the whole thing. And there was some controversy about whether it should be done in Ethiopia or not. And they ended up doing it, and then they use this for export. So it's actually a source of foreign currency as well. And there you can see it's being loaded onto a truck. So 47 children less than 5 years old registered in the Plumpy Nut program, more than 2 standard deviations below the WHO weight per height or arm circumference. Arm circumference is the easiest way to check for malnutrition. And you basically just check right there in the middle of the arm, and it's you have a stick. I mean, you have a thread, and it's color coded, so it's easy to tell. We don't have a lot of kids less than 12. But arm circumference, low arm circumference correlates with increased mortality. So it's actually the easiest and probably the best way of doing a quick test for malnutrition. So at 6 months out, only 6 were malnourished. 90% success rate. Overall average body weight gain is 19%. So that's great. And the kids didn't look bad before. Our kids are not as severely malnourished, but they look a lot better after. And again, plumpy nut is the thing to do. And there she is. And one of the things that we have to worry about is people selling this stuff. So you don't want to give them like a 1-month supply, because they're going to just go and sell it. And so you want to give them a week's supply and have them come every week. Or you can even have them, if you really wanted to, you could have them come every day, and just like you do directly observed therapy for TB, you could do a directly observed therapy for plumpy nut and have them come and eat the plumpy nut in front of you. That's a lot of work for us, but it's possible to do it that way. And this lovely boy, I love this kid. His name is Samuel, and he has a spinal, probably something called ankylosing spondylitis. It's a spinal deformity, and he's sort of bent over like that, and he walks like an old man, and he's relatively malnourished. And when he does show up, and he actually doesn't live in Addis anymore, he moved to the countryside somewhere, but when he does show up, we give him plumpy nut and hope that it works. So that's what I have to say, and we can just have a discussion about this stuff if you're interested. Yes?
Do they get to eat anything like in addition to the plumpy nuts, or are they just eating plumpy nuts?
Oh, no, they eat other
Like
stuff
other
all day long. No, it's not like they're...
not like starving.
No, not at all. In Ethiopia, no.
Okay.
I mean, Ethiopia does have periodic famines, and there is, pockets of malnutrition and so on. But the idea, especially where I am, in recent years, like in the last 10, 15 years, there has not been like real starvation. Sometimes people say people are starving for political reasons, and you will, there's advocacy groups who will talk about how everybody's malnourished, or they'll say a shocking 44% of the population, of my population, is stunted. And they're referring, for example, to the Ethiopian Jews. And why is that shocking? 44% of Ethiopians are stunted, and these people are Ethiopians. So what's your biggest risk factor for being stunted? Having a mother who's stunted, okay? We don't choose our mothers. So, there's not a lot that you can do about this stuff. Actually, the stunting is interesting because there is some data that if you increase the amount of zinc in their diet, that this can help. So one idea is to give more zinc. Another is to increase the absorption of the zinc. This is very funny. There's only one substance in the world that increases the absorption of zinc. Do you know what that is? Red Zinfandel wine. It has to be red Zinfandel wine. Don't ask me why. But anyway, we're not giving out red Zinfandel to our population. Yes?
With your saying how you like them to come in once a week instead of giving them a month supply, is it ever difficult for them to get into your office?
No, We're within especially in Gondar, we're within walking distance. I mean, and Ethiopians are used to walking, so it doesn't have to be like 3 blocks. It has to be 2 miles. And they live within 2-3 miles, so that's not a problem. But that's a good question. Yes?
You said that people try to sell it themselves. Is there a black market for pumpkin nuts?
So that's an interesting question. I've never heard of a black market for plumpy nut, but there's a black market for everything. I mean, so for example, there was this street beggar who went up to one of my friends in Ethiopia and he said, and he's actually going up to an American public health official, and he's saying he's really cold and he's at night and he wants to know if he could have an overcoat. So my friend says, yeah. And next time he was in the States, he went to the Salvation Army and he got him a very warm overcoat. He gave it to the guy. The guy thanked him very much. The guy never wore the overcoat. I'm sure he sold it. Okay? I mean, we saw this guy all the time. He never wore this overcoat that he was brought from the United States. So that's the type of thing that happens all the time. I mean, and not only that, I mean, I'll tell you even crazier stuff. So there was a malaria outbreak in Ethiopia, and so the government flew in a World Health Organization malaria expert, and they called all the doctors in a certain region to give them a crash course in malaria so that they would know exactly how to diagnose it and how to treat them. And they gave them notebooks and they gave them pens and pencils. The young doctors, they didn't want to take notes though, because they wanted to bring their notebooks and their pens back to their villages and sell them. It's crazy. These are doctors. These are young doctors. And they refused to take notes so that they could sell their notebooks for $1 or $2. Yes?
Do you speak English there?
Educated people speak English. So there has to be, in a country like Ethiopia where the national language is Amharic, there's no textbooks written in Amharic. So the country has to choose a national language for education. And so basically the choices are English, French, Russian or German, and they chose English. So English is the language of higher education. So if you go to medical school, if you go to dental school or something like that, if you go to engineering school, you use American textbooks or you use English textbooks, and English is the language of instruction. So educated people do speak English. Yes?
Not including the pregnant people that you treat with plumpy nut, but just strictly the kids, what's the typical age group?
Oh, by definition, it would be, you don't give solid food until they're 6 months old. Okay, so it would be between 6 months and 5 years. Yeah, we rarely, there has to be a special circumstance to bring somebody above 5 into our program. So basically, most of them are between 1 and 5. But Ethiopians culturally don't like to give solid food until the kid's about a year old. But the World Health Organization recommends that you give solid food at 6 months. So again, that's one of the things that we have to address in our health education. Steve?
So with War for Food and the work that we do, everybody's familiar with how pumpkin nuts used to save severely malnourished kids, the ones that have the UAC bracelet, that upper arm circumference of 12 or less. When you started using it in pregnant women and kids that were preparing for surgery and recovering from surgery, was there anybody else doing that at that time, or was that an idea that kind of was innovative and something that...
I don't think anyone else is doing this. Even now, I don't think anyone is giving it to pregnant women. And clearly, Ethiopian women are not gaining enough weight in pregnancy. So I think it's probably, especially in the villages, it's a good idea to do that. And as far as the surgery stuff, I think we're the only one to do that.
Yeah. So if anybody is interested in like the pre-med route that like screens, like somebody should study this and somebody should publish this and somebody should like tell other people to do this. So if that fits your description, maybe
Yeah.
we should get some data from Rick and show the world how pumpkin nut has many uses.
Yes.
What are you doing to fix the culture problem with pregnant women coming to the doctor early?
So we have a health education system. When we had the clinic, then we had community health workers that we had our own term for that. We called them health facilitators. That's not an international term. Internationally, they call them CHWs, community health workers, but we call them health facilitators. And they visit each family a couple times a week. And the 3 things that they want to ask about when they visit are fever, cough, and diarrhea. But they also ask about pregnancy and when was your last menstruation. So we want the people to come in early so that we can follow them. We can check their blood pressure. If they're anemic, we can address that. The other thing is that you want to do to a pregnant woman, you want to deworm her. And if you deworm her, she's going to absorb more nutrients and gain more weight. Yes?
How'd you get involved with World for Food? Getting on.
Yeah,
How you
Rabbi Weinberg
guys-
put me on the board.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So how many chapters of World War for Food are there in the United States?
So we now have about 6 or so currently, 5 college campuses in London.
Really, what are the other ones?
So right now we have ASU, USC, and ones at UNC and BC, including one here in Michigan also.
Nice.
And then a high school.
And then high school in Michigan.
Oh, really? Nice.
Do you have a picture of all the kids you adopted?
Do I? On my computer, I do. I can show you.
We'll get the next one set up. I think people will probably start trickling in now.
So you got to 20? How did you?
No, I've adopted 5.